Hi everyone, thank you guys for coming today. And I want to start a little bit about our workshops that we're hosting. This Saturday, spiritual talk to Monday and Tuesday at 6 p.m. So you guys can join it in the beginning of the week for spiritual Q&A and both spiritual talk. And sometimes we do plant medicine Q&A as well, so questions during those times. And on Wednesdays, we have group hypnosis workshops at 5:30, and you can join in person or online. And you can book these sessions through our healingandretreats.com website. And on Thursdays, we have our usual channeling live streams. And yes, I'll talk a little bit more about the hypnosis course at the end of this day. We have an exciting guest. Her name is Helen, and she just did hypnosis today. And yes, Helen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Yeah. My name is Helen. I am a designer based in New York, and I have a really great conversation with Naomi and Tina, and also had my session today. So, I'm excited to share my experience and answer any questions.
Maybe Tina, maybe you can ask first, if you like.
Since you just had your first session today, was there something unexpected surprised you? What was your overall feeling kind of after the session?
Yeah, I think overall, before I came in, I definitely had an expectation of things I wanted to explore, anything. But I just felt going through the guidance from Naomi, my mind, or I guess my heart, really unfolded what I needed to see the most at this moment. So I would say I felt like a very natural flow. And I also, just one thing that's really interesting is, I think for me, I assumed being in this state would almost feel like you're being possessed, but I actually felt, and I felt I was, my conscience is in touch the entire time. So so overall, I learned a lot about myself, and overall really heard exactly what I needed to hear at this moment to my life. And
So what kind of do you remember everything still?
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, I'm probably just gonna only highlight me at first. I was seeing a lot of different images, and I was feeling a little bit confused about what is happening. But then Naomi really grounded me, and during this process, that she backed and I was a little seed, and I was trying to travel or go further, but I couldn't. I kept being sucked back by fear, by a lot of the core values or old beliefs I had about myself. And then Naomi really probed me questions on what exactly is the fear. And then as a seed, I felt I was really breaking through. So that was a very powerful moment. And then, I think that's probably one of the most important things that stood out to me.
And what I would say about passion is a fear, right? We all have fear because this is something that in our society is, and we put a fear in front of everything, especially things are new. But if you ask yourself, what is my fear? What I'm really afraid of? Fear. So what is that? It's some sort of habit. Yeah. If we feel something's unknown, let's put a fear in front of it. But think about it. If you don't know something, what's the way to get to know it? That's all you need to do. Get to know it instead of go around or try to avoid or run away, because then you will never know. But we don't think we do because we were taught, right? If you don't know something, stay away. But why? Okay. And
how would you explain? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, how would you explain, those kind of innate fears that come with us? For example, I was really afraid of animals, like any kind of pets. And I have no idea why. I've never been chased by a dog when I was young or something. but I'm just like really afraid of getting close to.
Usually it's that either you were killed or right then traumatized by the, so unconsciously, right, you still feel this is not something you feel comfortable. So this is using hypnosis, right, is the best way to revisit that moment, and then your soul will be released. Like basically you have this trauma, but it's a small trauma, right? You hold on to that energy or that memory. You did not let it go. So it's a wound, unhealed wound. So when you see animals, that triggers. Yeah, but it's the same concept. The right more significant trauma is the same concept. It's not about what happened. Let's say years ago, right? Parents abused this child. 20 years later, right? This person is still carrying. Is the person decide, right, not to let it go? So the stuck energy is still, it can be triggered at any time. Right? When he thinks about what enforcing that memory to come to the surface and say, I'm the victim. Right? But what to do with this is let it go. Let it pass through you. You don't need to hold on to this energy. For how long? More than 20 years? It does not serve you. Right? It does not. Because nobody will say, I enjoy trauma. Right? But why we cannot let it go? We don't believe, right? Like, oh, then remember, because this is, right, this person did this to me. I need to remember. It seems like I need to remember. For example, say too much about, right? It can leave a very steep in our heart, right? Let's say in China, right? The Second World War. Let's say the Japanese, right? They were in China, right? Not in every city, but let's say Nanjing, right? We all know that, and 300,000 people died, right? Right? Reinforce this all the time. No, but it happened for a reason, for a spiritual, because we agreed. The people, a lot of people, right, on the soul level, agreed to have this experience. Otherwise, it will not happen. Right? Agree for what reason? To learn something from it. But it's not to have this anger or resentment stay body in our memory.
So, like, should we even talk about it anymore? Like, learn it in, textbooks or in class, right? Like, you feel like we should just forget about it?
It's not forget about. You can have that as a history, but do we need to feel, oh, this is bad, right? This is something that we shouldn't forgive the Japanese at that time. No. But you can say this is, right? Something happened 1942, right? But we don't have to have any negative emotion.
So what happens if you keep?
So it's like a trauma, same thing. You will not feel good about it, right? Because if you did not let it go, or a person in that city at that time, I still remember, right? Yes, it's understandable. I know I'm saying this, a lot of people might disagree, but I'm not saying this from the human's point of view. I'm really talking about from the spiritual, right, higher perspective. Nothing can happen to us if we did not agree. So on the soul level, the victim agreed to have that experience, to learn from it. Because we're eternal. We never die, right? We never disappear. We never can be destroyed. So the soul wants to learn all different kind of things. Good, bad, we think is bad. But to that soul, it's a tremendous, right? Deep learning. But if we forgot about we're just victim, right? And this, then the lesson will not be learned. And then it's kind of right? You decide to do something, but then you did not pass the test, which is okay too. You can learn the next time, whenever you're ready, because your soul knows that. Like, oh, I tried to learn this, but did not, right? Learn yet. We can do it again, or in a future life. Yeah. So but what I want to talk about is if you don't feel, let's say, because you don't forgive your parents or your, let's say, right, you have this childhood, child abuse, let's say, right? If you don't, who does not feel good? You, right? And the longer you hold on to it, the longer you will not be able to live with joy at peace. If you have this resentment, I think it's hard for this person to even love. I think it's very hard. So why we need to carry the baggage? Right? Or weak. It's not showing that you forgot. No. It's the opposite.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Well, but I don't quite understand. You explain a little bit more on like what it means to let it.
It took me some time to really understand. So this, right? Happened, right? And everything happens for a reason. So it's always about soul's evolution, right? That event. So when it came, let's say a car accident, right? You did not do anything wrong, but this person is doing the texting and did not see you, right? Okay, so this happened, and then you have to acknowledge, right? That's step one. Right? You say this has happened. Okay. The next is we don't feel good. We feel angry, right? Or what else? Let's say just angry. Why me? Why this happened to me? Right? So now the second step is to feel it. Feel your anger. However, this anger, how long will it take? Right? Maybe a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, let's say, right? But we cannot, the true negative last for about 15 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
And then after that is because we have certain beliefs that I'm a good person, this not supposed to happen to me. Why this happened? What we're thinking in our mind. Right? So that's why, no, I don't feel good. Okay, so you feel the anger. And what's the next step? We say, let it go. No. It's, see, the energy, right? This energy came to you. You feel it. And then the energy is always leads to keep going. So the energy wants to pass through you. How can you let it pass through you? You say, I acknowledge, and now I understand things like this can happen. I'm not going to keep, right, holding on to the feeling that I feel this is not fair. This shouldn't happen to me. Because as long as I'm keep thinking this way, I will not feel good. So I think it's time for me, you can say, forgive happened. And when you can do so, the energy will pass through you. So it's not that you let it go. You don't even have that power. It will go. So this is lesson has been learned, and the energy did not get stuck. So but if not, then the energy usually gets stuck inside of our body.
Oh, so can we say actually, right, the energy will do everything to circulate, but then what's making us holding the energy within our body, so it doesn't get released naturally. Like you said, 15 seconds, and then it will be released naturally. But then our beliefs make it stay longer, like for days.
Because always remember, without beliefs, you cannot have negative emotions. Not possible.
I see.
It doesn't exist. right? So this is how it works. So you say, okay, right, I'm not gonna keep being angry.
So how does hypnosis, how can hypnosis help, us to understand and release this thing? Because I think when we're conscious, it's hard to say, oh, I really get it. I understand what I'm supposed to learn. So like, how does hypnosis help with that?
Maybe you can
Bring to a healing place.
Maybe you can talk about your experiences a little bit like that.
I think during hypnosis, I definitely feel like the thing that I will, like my core beliefs came up and then it was very right in my face. So I think the first step during hypnosis is like even face that fear or face that core belief like very straight on. I think the things that I felt during the hypnosis was things I probably roughly had an idea even before this experience, but I either never had the courage to admit it or I was just kind of running away from it. So I think the first step is during my experience, I felt very, and when I was sharing it, I didn't feel any judgment. I feel like if I just talk about it now, like normally, I would probably feel a lot of shame around admitting some of my fear. But in that state, I don't know what it is, and maybe Naomi just made me feel really safe. I felt very okay admitting it and talking about it, not as like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed. I think this way, but hey, this is just like a factual thing. Like this is what it is. And then I think Naomi went on to really question, like, is that really true? What would happen? What exactly is it? As okay, I'm actually holding on to something that I have no evidence. Like, I don't know. I just think this way for whatever reason. And then I think like I can't remember what exactly happened. I think from there we went through this like almost had agreement as I go and you know try a different way. I kind of forgot how exactly I did about it, but for some reason I just let it go.
Yeah, magically.
So I think like maybe the seeing it without judgment is something hypnosis really supported me there. So it's really not about like the solutioning, but it's really about like admitting it is there with no fear.
I think is maybe Helen did not realize because you wouldn't look at it the way that I look at it because you are in that right deep state was conscious. So how to make people change is when as soon as you look at it, the seed, right? Not as a Helen, as your true self. So you don't have the mind. You don't have the beliefs that I'm this kind of person, right? So you look at it from the soul's perspective, and you truly understand this fear is made up by you. It's not a real energy.
That's true.
And you realize you could jump, right? You could go very high. Up.
Yeah, I could do a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, try it again. Right? You are on the.
I was trying to break some sort of ice and I couldn't do it at first. Or even if I did it, I would like be sucked back in. And then I was like, well, what if just try like totally believing it? And then I was able to like finally break like a really thick piece of ice, like in my mind.
And you were, how to say, you couldn't walk well. Right?
Oh yeah,
you keep falling.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And then after I broke the ice, it was like I felt like a baby, just like learning how to like I wasn't rolling around on this ice that used to be like blocking me, and then I was wobbly, but I was having so much fun, and I really experienced the joy. Yeah, that was really cool.
Right. And I just knew it when she said, "Oh, I don't think I can go higher." I said, "Try. You'll be surprised." Because for some reason, right? Sometimes we don't even try. We just believe that, oh no, I cannot do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So it's a realization, right? It's something that now, if you have things that you feel, maybe I cannot do that.
Just try.
But you will think twice.
Exactly.
And trust yourself like crazy.
Trust yourself like crazy. I think that's my takeaway for the whole day. Trust myself like crazy and unconditional.
Right. Not only this I can do, that I cannot do. Right.
Exactly.
And it's so inspiring, right?
Exactly.
And so you can, now you know that you can create
anything.
See, it's such a good feeling that you feel there's no limitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why not live this way, right? Why not? Let's say you don't believe, right? Right? You try and say, okay, I tried, and say, I tried, it did not work. But most people don't even try anything new.
Exactly.
Yeah, one a funny analogy about
I don't think it's safe to share.
why not?
Okay.
You don't where, but let's say from New York City, right? Okay, you want to talk.
So I think a very interesting analogy that Naomi and I were chatting today that like really makes sense is that when our soul comes from such like a high dimensional, beautiful place, and then we came to Earth and set our goal as so I just want to survive. Basically, the analogy where you could like coming from New York and then you move to like let's say the countryside of like China, and then being there in the rural area, and then your goal instead of to like really enjoy it, to learn from the people, but to like survive in the countryside. So that was just like a very interesting analogy that we follow.
Because a lot of people, they really think we came here to survive, make a living. You don't need to make a living here. You have a much better life there. And you came here for something totally different. But most people think, oh, talking about this does not help me to make more money, right? So don't bother me, right? Let me make my hourly salary. Sorry.
I'm not gonna lie, I felt that way like a little bit today. I was like, oh my God, I'm thinking about work. And then I was like, wow, I'm doing and I was like, I couldn't believe I was like thinking about work. Then I was like, you know what? They're gonna survive without me, so I don't have to worry about this.
And right, so as long as we're doing things that excites us, right, we did, right, one way or another, by the universe, by your higher self, right, by your soul family, you will not be on the street. But we have to truly trust that. You can think,
exactly.
See, then it will not work because you're still not being you, who you are.
Exactly.
So trust like crazy. That's the way to live. Because if you ask me and say, Naomi, if everything you said, everything right we talk about is not true, then what am I gonna do? If you ask me that, or I ask you that, your friend, and said, if what you told me is not true,
it doesn't change how I want to live my life.
You can say,
oh,
do.
I forgot how to say it.
You can say in a new way. You just say, I think Tina knows because we talk about this.
I'm constantly being quizzed.
Yeah,
try for 1 week or 1 month. Give yourself.
That's one way, but I have a better way, right? You just say, right? I trust like crazy, right? And people say, oh, if that's not the case, then you're all screwed up. I will say, do I have a better way to
live if I don't trust?
Right. I'm not going to feel this good.
Yeah.
So I don't have a better way to live. I chose to live this way. See? How you feel is the most important thing in the world, right? Every second, how you feel about yourself.
Exactly.
Okay? So we don't have a better way to live. This is the way. Yeah, and try it and see what happens. Right? And really do something that you like to do. Otherwise, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Why you want to torture yourself? If your soul is not happy, how can we be happy? How? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Right? We like to think, right? So, okay, use the logic.
But you can never think thoroughly, that's the thing.
Right, but right? If you are doing something you don't like to do, you are torturing yourself. You are, right? Making yourself feel very good. It's not happy. You cannot be happy. This is simple logic.
I agree.
Look at children thinking they don't like to do. and they learn back, right? Happy and joyful, right? And they're excited and they don't get tired because they're doing things that excite them.
And they forget.
They forgive.
An argument with their friend. Yes.
Right? And before. Right?
Exactly.
So we need to go back to that state. Otherwise, right? It's life. Okay, I want to say life is a celebration.
Exactly. Right, that's absolutely right. I think life is a celebration, and way to guide someone is probably to really celebrate them as well.
You inspire them. You let them know, right? What do we just talk about?
And like how you're not enough, or really just like tell them, I guess, for them to trust themselves.
Yeah, because it's a good fact.
And that would be like the best advice.
Yeah, and right, some people, they live in fear, so they're afraid of something. And I feel, what shall I say to them, right? So they're thinking about the worst case scenario, right? If that's the case, why not?
Exactly. But like think about like the best case scenario, but that's so not true.
But why not, right? Why not?
They're true.
Like every day, you feel it.
Yes.
So our next level quantum field hypnosis course is live, and the English course will be starting on May 30th, which is next Friday. And you can learn more about it on the website. And basically, one of the main practices that we proposed is to have role play, hypnosis role play. So as students, you can role play with Naomi or hypnotize me in like a real session to really help you master the art of asking important questions. Right? How do you really guide a client to healing, to heal themselves, and to know about who they are? So asking questions, asking the right questions, is actually one of the most important parts about being a quantum healing hypnotherapist. So our course, like 70%, is really focused on role play and having this interactive class. And we really encourage student participation and interaction. So if you want to check out a kind of example video about role play that we did, you can see it on our website. And it's like the book workshops / audiobooks page. And yes, it's also linked down in our. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up before I guess something like May 25th, and let us know. And you can reach out to us if you have any questions about that. See you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming.
Everyone.
And thank you, Helen, too.
Yes.
For joining us today. Really appreciate your sharing.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. I'll end this session right here.